This is Young, Black, and, a podcast bringing light to the Black artist experience in Charlotte and beyond. We're your hosts, Bree and Tracie.
Welcome to episode 7 of Young, Black, and. We're going to jump right into an interview with cast members Tracie Frank, that's me, and Toni Oliver. But before we do that, let's hear what director Dee Abdullah and producer Rory Sheriff had to say about each of them.
I knew from the door that I wanted you to be Mima. I knew from the door that I wanted you. That's why I reached out to you. And basically, I wanted you to audition. And it was yours to lose. I have it in mind, but prove to me that I'm right. And when I get that feeling, I'm right. Those are the kind of things that I like to toot my own horn, because I'm really, really intense when it comes to casting. I think I have a really cool eye for casting. Toni is a really cool story with Toni. Toni auditioned and we brought her back, and she had like a certain confidence and a certain cockiness, and I think she had a chip on her shoulder. In hindsight, Toni had a chip on her shoulder, you know. Yeah, that's a chip, you know. I didn't see it. I saw this beautiful black girl coming in, and she didn't look the same as she did for the jitney, because she lost weight, she worked out, and she looked good. I'm looking at this black girl and I'm like, wow, and she's doing it with confidence, and she's bringing it, and she's like, look, my shit don't stink, you know. You're gonna give me this role, you know. When she left, I was like, you look familiar, do I know you? And she really did look familiar, and I forgot that I talked to her mom on the phone, and she's like, yeah, my daughter, she's gonna audition. She auditioned for Jitney. I'm glad that I totally forgot all about Latisse and her daughter, because it would have just fogged my thinking. I was like, you look familiar, and I was like, do I know you? She's like, no, and she kept moving. She kept it moving. So I picked up her bio and her headshot, and then I read her name. Listen, that's Latisse's daughter, right? So I was glad that she's told me no, but you know, she lied to me. Toni came back, and she knew, she was familiar with the process of auditioning for us, and so it was pretty much a piece of cake for her. She knew the process, and she made it happen. Which, that's the kind of people that you.
All three of you could have been Helena for me. You, Toni, and Bree, all of you could have been Helena. What made me decide on Toni was that you clearer became Mama for me, because there's a strength in that character that you naturally possess, Tracie. And there's a command of those those words that you took when you were auditioning to that you're all of you personified. And there, the other things that I felt like I needed to add it to soften that character, to bring that character back, was easier than giving that to that character. So after I was clear on that, then Toni for me was like, she didn't bring the edge to her in terms of that hardcoreness. She has a softer core to her that I felt she needed, that Helena I feel has. Because Helena is tough, and you know, but she's tough in a different kind of way that Mama is tough, and Helena still has that thing about her that won't let her go beyond. She will not let her cross that line. And there was something about Toni that I kind of felt that exemplified that more so than you. Mm-hmm. I felt if you had to cross the line, you may not want to, but you would anyway. And
what's up, everyone? This is Bree, and we are here for another episode of Young, Black, and. All right, so we're here with Tracie to do a little one-on-one interview. Tracie, tell me a little bit about your character. Who is Mama, and what is Mama all about?
Mama is about 18 years old, according to the script notes. She is a young Liberian woman in the midst of the second civil war in Liberia. And she was the wife of one of the commanding officers. She was one of 4 wives, and she decided to take up a gun. And I don't want to give away too much, but she decided to forego being a wife, quote unquote, to be a soldier.
How would you compare Mayma to other characters that you've played? Is there a particular character that reminds you of Mayma?
Absolutely not. I've never done any character like Mayma. The closest I could say character that I have played coming anywhere close to Mayma, and she comes nowhere close to Mayma, but I think in the way that people might perceive her would be Jessie May from The Trip to Bountiful. Trip to Bountiful was a play written, well, it's set in the 50s. I think it was probably written right around that time. But it's about a man and his wife and the wife's mother-in-law. The wife is Jessie May. And they all live together in this tiny apartment, and they're basically broke. But Jessie May and the mother-in-law do not get along. And when I played Jessie May, it was a couple of years ago, I almost always fall in love with the characters I play. Like, I find the things in them that I get and understand. It doesn't matter who it is. And so when I played Jessie May, every night when I would go out afterwards to, sort of say hello to the audience and whatever, people would give me dirty looks, like they were not pleased with me. And I was like, what did I ever, in my Jessie May accent, what did I ever do wrong? I don't even understand what is wrong with these people. So I felt like Jessie May was almost completely justified in all of the things that she did, whereas people thought that she was a mean bitch to her mother-in-law. And so I think that some of that same hostility may come from people in response to Mayma. However, I hope that I'll be able to convey a deeper heart to Mayma. She makes some decisions that people might despise. And I'm not excusing her, but I understand her. I understand where she's coming from. So no, there's not been any character like Mayma. I love her.
Are you most like your character or least like your character?
I think that as an actor, I think you have to be able to see yourself in the characters that you play. You have to be able to come down to go down through the layers until you get to the basic foundational layer and find what humans have in common, what women have in common, whatever person that you are portraying, you have to find those things that are in common. And I think that Mayma is dealing with feelings of powerlessness, feelings of hopelessness, pain, and what she does is a result of that. I have felt powerless. I have felt hopeless. I have felt pain. I don't know what I would do as an 18-year-old in the middle of a war where the women are being treated. I mean, it's the way women are treated anytime there's a war. I don't know what I would have done as an 18-year-old in those circumstances. I would hope that I would make better, wiser choices, but Mayma's 18. It's a horrible thing to throw upon, and all of these girls are young. They're all young. It's horrible that they're in these circumstances in the first place. So I go into someone like Mayma without judgment. I can't. How can I play her honestly if I'm judging her? I just find the basic things that we have in common, and I take it from there. So am I more like Mayma or less like Mayma? I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm more like her because I am interpreting her through my body and my own life. So yes, she's like me, just like every character I play is just like me. Yeah.
All right, talk a little bit about your character development process. Like, as an actor, what do you go through to prepare for not just this role, but any other role? And has this process been different from any other process you've gone through?
I've only been seriously acting for a few years. And so character development is still something that I just feel like I have so much work to do. I'm like, I'm not good at this. I really want to get better. I talked to one of my acting teachers because I felt like, for example, that my movements, like the movements that I was doing or have been doing in rehearsal, have been more like Tracie. My mannerisms, those don't feel like Mayma to me. And so I talked to one of my acting teachers and she was like, here's what you need to do, step A, step B, step C. And I've been trying to do that. So I've been walking around my house with a gun. I had to text my roommates and be like, yeah, ladies, so I have an AK-47 strapped to my back. If you happen to see me, I promise it's all good. So, but that's definitely different. This is the first character I have ever been who carries an AK-47, let alone any weapon. Also, we've all, as a cast, we've been exposed to the Liberian dialect, the Liberian culture, Liberian food through one of our castmates, Ruby, and her family. They've been phenomenal. And so this is the first production I've ever been a part of where the director made it a point for us as a cast to take the time to be fully immersed in the culture as part of our preparation process. It's always been the case that on any other show I've worked on where the director has sort of expected you to do your own work. And I'm not saying that Dee doesn't, but she's deeply involved in that. She's made sure, like she wants this to be a real thing for us. So having that has been helpful. It's hard for me to watch the footage and the documentaries and everything because I get so angry at the way that these women were treated, but I have to let that work happen in me, that invisible work happen in me. So for me, character development is still something that I'm learning how to do. And I'm learning that all of the research that you do is not something you have to consciously apply. It's something that goes inside of you and comes out when and where necessary, as if by magic. And that is coming from this book that I read called The Actor and the Target. I would say this show has had the most character development of any show that I've done. And I feel like as I continue to do more work, I'll continue to find the way that I develop a character more and more.
Has this character changed you as an actor? And if so, how?
I wouldn't say that she's changed me. I would say, I think I find this to be true with all the characters I've played. Depending on the character that I am becoming, those characteristics come out in my everyday life more. So it's not like it's changing me. It's more like it's bringing out that part of me. I'm not a patient person anyway, but I find I am less patient lately. I can't stand for nobody's bullshit right now. I just need you to get it together. And, even though I might feel that way, I don't usually behave that way. That part of that sort of, fight me. Like that thing is not how I usually live. Yeah. But I'm finding that in portraying Mayma and being able to allow that aspect of her to rise up in me affects my everyday life.
I will say one of my favorite things to watch is your process and your development of Mayma. Yeah. It'll be in the most random moment you'll bring out your Mayma voice. It just seems so natural. And so for me, this is my first show in 7 years. I haven't done that since 2011. I kind of lost touch with certain things. So to see that we could just be in the most random, we could be sitting in the house, we could just be sitting there and then Mayma comes out and we're just like, what, Tracie? But it just comes out and it's natural. So I think it's a very beautiful process to see as you go through your process with Mayma. But as an actor, watching another actor and watching their process, it's just like, dang, I need to set my game up. I listened to a podcast today. The name of the podcast is called Don't At Me. So if you are a creative person or you just like just listening to some real good conversations, please listen to Don't At Me. But one of the things they were talking about was the beauty and the harshness and the struggles of acting and connecting to a character. And so that's why I thought about this question today. Do you find it difficult or has it been difficult connecting or understanding, making sure that you're not judging Mayma or not judging your character that allow you to kind of, push through and connect to her on some sort of level?
Honestly, for the most part, no. I would say the only thing that I have had issues with, and they're more mental issues in connecting with Mayma, is the fact that she is 18, and I am not, and I haven't been 18 for a long time. So having to sort of think back to and I'm not saying that all 18-year-olds are erratic, but there is I think of a newborn foal or something when they're first born and they're sort of like still trying to figure out their legs and how to get them to work and stuff. I feel like that's what 18-year-olds are like. With a horse, it's like they come out and they are like immediately they are out there trying to walk. And I feel like that's what 18-year-olds are like, thinking that they've got their ish together and they can just immediately come out the box and walk. I guess what I'm trying to say is 18-year-olds are so young, and there's such a beauty and an innocence to them that they try so hard to cover up and hide. And they're so busy trying to be grown, and that's what I mean, I guess, by the horse trying to walk. They're so busy trying to be grown that they're not appreciating their 18-year-oldness. Maybe being aware of that and sort of having come full circle, having been 18, having been not necessarily silly, but silly in that way that I'm not thinking about life that way. And then gone through, some really hard 20s and some especially hard 30s. And then coming back, I feel like I am sort of back at being 18 the way that I wish I had been at 18, enjoying my youth even though I'm not 18 anymore. So it's hard to try and reconnect with that sort of wild, full, newborn foolishness that I feel like I was at 18.
One last question for Tracie, and then we're going to throw it over to Miss Toni. Wow. Mayma is really fierce in a different way. I feel like she's her own category. I feel like, honestly, you can't push her buttons. She's going to explode. She's fierce. What do you use to tap into that fierceness?
I use the volatility that I have experienced in my own life. I got pregnant with my first child when I was 16 years old. And I had this romantic notion of what that was going to be like. Very romantic. I imagined rocking this tender little baby who would lovingly gaze up at me and never cry and never, misbehave, etc. And his father would be there with his arm around me, looking down into the precious baby in my arms, and that was going to be our family. And then I quickly learned that that was not going to be the case. And I became angry. And I was angry because I never got to see his father. And I was angry because these things were happening to me without my permission. I was deeply angry. And even though, part of it was hormonal pregnancy stuff, I'd spent that time being angry in a way that I had never been in my life. I was this happy-go-lucky teenager, and then I got pregnant, and I had to give up all the fun things like cheerleading and all the fun things that I was doing. I had to give all of that up. And meanwhile, his father was off living life, and God was off doing what God does, and here I was stuck. That that bitterness was so deep. It didn't go away for a very long time. It didn't go away until fairly recently when I dealt with it. But even though, I don't remember necessarily what it was like to be, by the time I was 18, I was a mother. So I can't ever say that I was a free 18-year-old, but I was definitely a free 16-year-old. Even though it's hard to tap into that, it's definitely not hard to tap into feelings of rage against circumstances that I couldn't control. And it lived under the surface for so long that even though I've let go of it, it's really easy to go back. It's easy to find. And it's useful as an actor. I'm working on this. Instead of being ashamed of it, I try to let it fuel better things. I want rage to be this part of me that I can tap into as opposed to this thing like, I think the Incredible Hulk said in the first Avengers movie, they were like, how do you control the Hulk at will? And he was like, I'm angry all the time. That's what I was like. And now it's like, no, it's in this other part of me that I access when I need to, as opposed to just being completely right under the surface of my skin and somebody was going to get hurt.
All right. So, hi, Toni. So just start off with, who do you play? And have you done anything or portrayed any characters like your character?
Well, I play wife number one, who we later find has a name other than number one, and that happens to be Helena. And I have played matronly roles, but none like this before. But I have never been given a role that I felt like I owed it to this character to play it in truth. So this has been really exciting for me in that way, because I really want to make sure that I give her justice, because she literally could be still in Liberia right now. And I want to make sure her story gets told. But none, that have been through this sort of emotional and physical and just spiritual journey that Helena goes through.
Do you feel like you are most like your character or least like your character?
I have days when I feel like oh, this is a lot like me. Well, I'll say this. Rocky, one of the other cast members, and she plays wife number 3, she feels like I'm a lot like my character, but I don't feel that way. I feel that, like I said, I have days. I feel like there are things. I think she's really intuitive, and I believe I can be intuitive. But I think she is like me in the sense that we both have a lot going on. I think that we have a lot going on externally and we are dealing with it internally the best way that we can. We're coping with it. And I think I connect with her in that way. And then there are some times where I think, gosh, she's just so much more wise than I am, or she's so... I don't know how I would deal in this situation, but sometimes I think I would be a mixture of her and Bessie. Bessie in the sense that I probably would have, I don't know, I'm not going to say that I would have stayed out of fear, but I'm a lot like her in the sense that I probably would have, you know, and I guess I can take it back to even slavery times, like, what role would you be okay with? Nobody wants to talk about that, but I mean, I would cope with being the person in the house that has to kind of have this connection with, at least I would be safe, I think. And that's kind of something that I'm dealing with internally, like, wow, you would, that's how you think, okay. Like, but yeah, some days we're alike, some days we differ, but I think we're more alike than different.
So talk to us a little bit about your character development process, because you have a bachelor's in theater from North Carolina Central University. What techniques do you use for your character development, and how has that process been going for you?
I'm still developing her. I mean, we're always developing, we're always growing. But I'm finding that I am a method actor. The more that I get into these things, I find that I literally want to kind of engulf myself in their life in some way. So I found myself looking up a lot of stories of abused women, but women who were kind of okay with it. That was just that was their life and we're going to deal with it. Things about teen moms, because my character has had to lose a child, so also grieving mothers. You know, I find that I kind of want to be a part of their life as much as possible. I speak in her accent a lot. I speak in her accent a whole lot, but that's so that, I mean, I'm so obsessed with making sure that I give her justice that I want to kind of make her a part of my everyday life as much as possible. So I don't want to get like too Heath Ledger about it, you know what I'm saying? But I did, yeah. But yeah, I mean, but I am finding that I do have that ability as an actor. So I think just making her a part of my world, or hoping that she welcomes me into her world. And that's kind of how I look at my characters, like it's their world, I'm just living in it. And yeah.
Has this character changed you as an actor, and if so, how?
This process has changed me as an actor. It's slowly but surely making me a hell of a lot stronger. This process is making me a hell of a lot stronger, and it's kind of divine intervention, this whole thing. But the character is definitely, like, she's definitely helping me grow. Because we're the same age, so she's going through a lot, and I think about that all the time. Like when I you know, am just kind of with her and taking those moments and reciting her lines and just kind of going through her world, I think about, like, wow, like, what would I do? Like, what would I have done? Like, could I have had this strength? Would I be dead? Would I have had the will to live? You know, like, I think about these things, and it's amazing some of the things you come up with in your mind. You really don't know. Especially after speaking to some of the people that I've spoken to, you know, they all believe that America is a day away from war. I mean, but it's possible. So what would you do? But this process is definitely helping me. The directing style, everything is just so different from what I'm used to, especially coming from HBCU. It's not always, we don't always have the amount of time to put on the show. We're not always awarded the privileges we've been awarded with this show. So it's definitely making me stronger and better, and just fall back in love with the process all over again. I'm loving it.
Has there been any difficulty in connecting to your character?
Yes, there have been difficulties. Like, this is something that I didn't even realize that I struggle with, but kind of falling into the background. But as actors, sometimes we kind of get lost in what's going on, and we forget our faces and all this stuff. Well, I do. I don't know if we all do, but I do. And my character has so much business that it has no choice but to be real and but to translate as real, or it will come off off as acting. And so I'm like afraid of, like the sweat on stage. I know under lights I'm going to be sweating and all this other stuff. And
girl, it's
all
Liberia.
this. Yeah, it's Liberia. So it's just like how I'm going to react to that. But the biggest challenge, honestly, has been not psyching myself out of playing truth and just letting it happen and playing the truth. Her voice to me is still coming to me. And I know that sounds so crazy, but I hear something so distinct from her that still has not shown itself that I'm struggling with a lot in her walk. But that I still have time to research that. But mostly it's her voice. It's her voice that has given me the biggest struggle because I want it to be very, very different from mine. Even though it's an accent and it's a dialect that we're using, I want the diction. It's something about her that's just very different. But she's a-coming. I'm not worried about it.
What do you think about our interaction with you being wife number 1 and me being wife number 2 formally? What do you think of our interaction?
I'm low-key starting to think that Mayma and Helena are like cousins or something. Honestly, for real, because there is I really am enjoying doing scenes with Tracie. I feel my strongest scenes are the ones where I'm up against Mayma, so I really enjoy them because I just really enjoy it and I really enjoy that time on stage with her. So I really and it might just be that our energy matches or maybe her energy is just like that and I'm like, hell no, we gotta have I don't know. But I think that Mayma and Helena have a very special relationship, and I am still trying to figure out exactly what that is. I think that Helena, and she says it a lot, everyone plays their role here. And I think that it took a lot for her to even get Mayma in that place, and then she still stepped against her. And I think that she feels manipulated by Mayma and betrayed by her. Betrayed it. I earned my degree, and she feels betrayed by her, and all these other things. And I think that comes out in that interaction. I think sometimes when she sees her, she just wants to cry because she's like, "Damn!" I don't know. For some reason, I just feel so connected to you, and it's just like she's finally breaking. But this is not the element that I think that we've had that breakthrough together, because in this hut or home, it's sort of a sisterhood. Yes, I keep a very clean hut, but it's sort of a sisterhood that I think these women have created, and they were each other's strength, and I think just a part of Helena left with Mayma, and she just doesn't understand her mindset, and she's trying to respect it, but she just doesn't understand it. So yeah. So that's something too I think we all should work on though, because I do think, as in any show, there are some scenes that are stronger than others, but this show deserves to have every scene have the exact same industry and strength that I feel like my scenes are becoming with you. And so that's something, and I just, you get so disgruntled, for lack of better terms, when you feel like, okay, I know this could be this, I know this could be that, but that, the lines, okay, you want to know something else I'm having a problem with? There are a lot of lines in this show, and we all have a lot of lines.
And there's the added element of the fact that it's like a broken English. You have to remember all the his and all the ohs and all the de and dis, and it's different. Yes.
Oh.
So there's that element added to it too. So,
and then the movement. We are not lacking any business at all. At all.
What has been the most difficult part of your process for this character? And for me, the most difficult part for me is the diction. I have the accent, I have the dialogue, but because we were trained with diction, you better hit the T's and the D's and the G's and the L's and the N's. You better hit every consonant. And in this particular show, it's such broken English where it's I won't finish. I won't necessarily say make. Mm-hmm. I may say meh, but not make. And I'm just when I'm speaking or saying my lines, I'm finding myself still hitting those intricate,
you're enunciating.
Right, I'm over enunciating. Yeah. And I'm just but the diction is my struggle bus. That's where I struggle the most, is with my diction. So what has been the most difficult part of your process?
I think the biggest thing with her has mostly been her voice and her body, because I have this kind of very lax stance to me, but African women do not. They have a very, very amazing, wonderful posture about them, and it's a natural posture. And so I have this very kind of, my mom's always said, like, don't sit with your head, don't sit slouched over and stuff, but that's just like how I'm comfortable. I don't believe she sits like that at all. I don't believe she stands in a slouch. But I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with her and how she moves.
That makes sense too. I was saying something very similar about Maima's movements, and I feel like I catch Tracie's movements when I'm trying to be Maima, and I feel like, because sort of like along the lines you were saying, these women are carrying pots of water on their heads. They must have cores of steel. Okay. And of course, that's a very American thing to say. Who gives a crap about a core? But but they must, their backs must be like steel. They must be so strong. There's no way that these women slouch through life.
No, they do not.
And yet, here I am. I see myself doing these American movements, and that's not Maima. Maima is a soldier, and she's a Liberian woman.
Yeah.
Like, that's not... So, I would say I agree, and I feel like that is where I'm struggling the most, and that's what I really want to work on, is getting the Maima. I want to move like Maima when I am Maima.
You said something that's like, I feel like so key, like it's so American. Certain movements, certain gestures and facial expressions that we have. Because I find that when I'm dealing with Rita, and I feel like when I react to certain things, I look at certain ways, I'm like, is that very American? Or like, Ruby, how did they move? But like, I feel like I do something or I sit a certain way, and I'm just like, do they cross their legs at the knees or at the ankles? Like, do they talk with their hands? How does this work? Is this very American? So thank you to Tracie, a.k.a. co-host, and the amazing Toni Brion.
Hi, you're welcome.
Thank y'all so much, and stay tuned. Young Black and Cultured. Young Black and Cultured is a segment we use to highlight up-and-coming events and productions of Black artists in Charlotte.
Be sure to check out young Black actor Jonathan Caldwell in 12th Night, presented by Shakespeare Carolina. Jonathan's playing Sir Andrew Aguecheek, and the play runs August 30th through September 8th at Winthrop Amphitheater in Rock Hill. Get your tickets at brownpapertickets.com. Young Black playwright Stacey Rose is holding an Indiegogo fundraiser. The project is called The Danger, an homage to Strange Fruit. It's described as a theatrical symphony that explores America's dark legacy of violence against Black bodies. Help Stacey raise the funds to bring this production to the light. Every dollar counts. To back this young Black artist, visit Indiegogo, that's INDIEGOGO.com, and search The Danger 2018.
All right, guys, so if you're looking to support us financially, you can check us out at www.patreon.com/youngblackand. And is spelled out. We will love your support. Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Young Black And. If you enjoyed this episode, give us 5 stars and a review on iTunes. We'd love to hear from you. Also, follow us on Instagram. Our handle is at youngblack_and_. And on Facebook, Young Black And. If you have an upcoming event or you'd like for us to spotlight a Black artist, message us on Facebook or Instagram. Bye!